work in White Plains. Benjamin Bailey, a 57-year-old Bronx resident, was taken to White Plains Hospital, where she died. 6:14. Two students are facing charges for allegedly threatening to carry out a shooting at Lincoln High School in Yonkers. This in News 12 today. Police said on Sunday that they received several reports of a school shooting threat circulating on social media. One of the boys, a 15-year-old student at Lincoln, initiated the threats, while another 14-year-old from a different Yonkers high school shared the messages. The teens allegedly used text messages, Snapchat, and Facebook posts threatening to carry out a shooting at the high school on October 25th. Both teens have been charged with making terrorist threats, and they were limited, though, to social media. A quick look at sports. Yes, I know. Cole, we talked about it yesterday. He pitched the Astros past the Yankees, 4-1 for a 2-1 lead in the ALCS. Although he didn't give up the run, Cole did not. Garrett Cole, he pitched 7 shutout innings, a gritty outing. Didn't have his best stuff either, but once again gave up no runs. Meanwhile, Altuve and Josh Reddick homered early off Luis Severino, who labored into the 5th while keeping the Yankees close, but they never broke through against Cole, who grinded through 7 innings to win his 19th straight decision, despite walking 5 batters for the second time in his career. And imagine this. The 29-year-old right-hander, unbeaten in 25 starts since his last loss on May 22nd, allowed 4 hits and struck out 7. 25 starts. Didn't lose. Now, that means he didn't win them all, but has not lost since May. And you probably know this already, but we're going to share this. The Yankees tonight may get rained out. We're not sure yet. It depends how early the nor'easter reaches us. If the heaviness of the storm reaches us, they'll be washed out, and they'll have an additional day to play at the stadium. They will not have a travel day. They'll just have to get their butts down to Texas for a 7th game, or rather for a 6th game if need be, a 7th game, pardon me. Starting pitchers get you to the World Series, even if you start 19-31 in a team. That's the story from Washington. They're going to the World Series for the first time since 1933, and it's all because of the incredible starting pitching the Nationals put together under GM Mike Rizzo. And indeed, they won last night, 7-4 win over the Cardinals, and the Yankees or Houston, one of them, is going to be playing the Washington Nationals. Now, just to keep the record straight, that is not the same Washington team that won back in 33. It is the former Montreal Expos that we're talking about. And LeBron James got himself in some hot water trying to walk back, not very successfully. Stick to basketball, LeBron. You're the best player on the planet. You're the worst diplomat on the planet. Furious Hong Kong protesters burned his jersey yesterday as it was revealed the Lakers superstar groused to players about how much money Houston Rockets manager Daryl Morey's pro-democracy tweet could cost the NBA. And, wow. Without even getting into it, it's a mistake. And, he just should keep his mouth shut. He was trying to say, without getting into all the quotes, that the GM really doesn't understand the situation. And that's true. He didn't realize that when he spoke up for free speech, that the goons in China would have a problem with it and freeze out the NBA. And now the NBA is all worried about money. It raises all kinds of questions. That for another day. It is 6:18. Welcome to, I almost used an old name. Welcome to Radio Westchester. We are the station at the station. I'm Bob Marrone. We're looking at a rather busy weather day today. If you're just joining us, let's go over the forecast. It's 55 right now, overcast. We'll get up to near 68 today. Cloudy, though, pretty much throughout the day. Now, tonight, mostly cloudy with scattered showers. The temperature will be 40 49. Wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and windy. The aftermath of this nor'easter. The temperature will be 59. The wind out of the west, again, 15 to 25 miles an hour. Still be a little breezy. Now, here's the catch. We have this flood watch in effect. They're telling us we're going to get a nor'easter, but we have differing forecasts. Some folks are saying it won't be that bad. Others are saying, well, it will be, but short duration, 2 or 3 inches of rain in a short period of time. We shall see. Bring an umbrella. I think they may be overstating this one. Now, Thursday, mostly cloudy and windy. Temperatures 59. The wind will be out of the west, 15, 25 miles an hour. Friday, mixture of sun and clouds. The high will be 59. Saturday, sunny, a high 64 degrees. Good morning. It is 6:19. You're listening to Mornings with Bob Marrone here on Radio Westchester. We are the radio station at the train station. In a little while, we'll be taking a break. We'll open up the windows so people can look in or come in and annoy us. We've got a great show, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, of course, so you can come in and visit. Even talk on the air if you have something to talk about or a question to ask. We are here. We have an interesting show for you today. Our first guest today is going to be someone you know for some 12 years. He was in the news yesterday, City Councilman Lou Trangucci, 12-year incumbent, will be with us at 6:50. We'll keep him to about the middle of the 7 o'clock hour. Then, like the rest of us, he has to get off to job number one. Vince Russo is going to join us about 7:35 to talk with us about last night's debate and his take on that. Also, his take on impeachment. Al Tarantino is in the house today at 8:20. A.J. Woodson at 8:35. Ivar Hayden, another city councilman, is here today. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock, Harlan Ullman, our international expert. So we have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to open up the phones in a little while, talk a little baseball. But we do have some regional news to get to when I get out from under this stack. This is a tough story, and we're going to go there anyway. Workers fixing a manhole in Columbus Circle, this down in New York City, made a blood-curdling discovery yesterday. The decomposed body of an apparent drunk who stumbled inside and went undiscovered for 2 weeks. That's right, he fell into a manhole, trying to figure out how that happened. Surveillance video showed the man plunging into the open, unattended hole at about 2:30 in the morning on September 30th and never re-emerging. The man had barged through a series of safety barriers set up by the Verizon utility workers who were tending to a downed service line. That explains it, at West 58th Street. But he who had left the hole unattended at the time of the incident, that is, Verizon did. It was unclear why the workers weren't watching, but they had no idea he was inside when they finally closed the hole up. And they didn't return until the next day. Again, 2 days later, and 2 weeks rather later, they found the body. Where is my other national story? This is the one, the only Radio Westchester, as I misplaced my story. I've been known to do that from time to time. This is sort of a New York story, but it's worth mentioning. Harvey Weinstein, you know who he turned to? He asked Woody Allen to help him stop the Annie Hall director's estranged son, Ronan Farrow, from investigating sex abuse claims against him. Farrow claims this in his new book. Doesn't Weinstein know? Doesn't he read the papers? Ronan hates him more than he probably hates Weinstein. That is, he hates Woody Allen, who believes the stories that his mother gave him that Woody molested his sister, even though there is no evidence and he was cleared of that. Weinstein seemed to want a strategic playbook, he said, for quashing sexual assault allegations and for dealing with me, Farrow wrote. The Miramax honcho wanted to know if Allen would intercede on his behalf. Farrow said his father, whom he doesn't talk to and believes molested his sister, as we said, Dylan as a child, declined to get involved. Geez, I'm so sorry. Good luck, Allen allegedly told Weinstein. And We look now to the national scene. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton wanted no part, of what he derided as what the White House's drug deal, quote unquote, to pressure Ukraine into investigating Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, a former White House official. Now, this was in the New York Post today, just to keep the source real. Fiona Hill, who served as the National Security Council's senior director for the Europe and Russia region, spent more than 10 hours fielding questions from 3 House panels behind closed doors. And she's the one who testified that Bolton told her, that is, to inform National Security Council lawyer John Eisenberg of the push for a fresh investigation by acting White House Chief of Staff Mike Mulvaney, Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani, and Gordon Sondland, the U.S. ambassador to the European Union. Mulvaney, Giuliani, and Sondland also wanted Ukrainian officials to explore the possibility of a Ukrainian role in 2016 election interference. It is 6:25. Well, if you were watching TV last night after throwing things at the television as the Yankees were losing, you saw pictures of Russian flags on top of trucks and those trucks rolling in to the former bases and areas vacated by the United States military. Russia moved in to fill the void left by the United States in northern Syria, deploying troops to keep apart advancing Syrian government forces and Turkish troops. At the same time, tensions grew within NATO as Turkey defied growing condemnation of its invasion from its Western allies. Turkey's week-old offensive against Kurdish fighters has caused tens of thousands to flee their homes, has upended alliances, and is redrawing the map of northern Syria for yet another time in the 8-year-old war. And the real story here, though, other than the fact that the Kurds have changed sides, and necessarily so for them, Russia has moved in and taken the place of the United States as the peace broker, if you will, and trying to take some of our former roles in the world. A lot more about that when we talk to Harlan Ullman at 9 o'clock today. A former New York human rights lawyer was gunned down outside her home on a quiet Pacific island where she was acting attorney general, prompting an FBI investigation. This in several outlets today. Rachel Bergeron, 33, had just returned from her daily jog on Yap Monday night when she was shot in the chest and leg. Her dog was also shot dead. The Wisconsin native was rushed to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. Husband Simon Hammerling, a pilot and a Christian missionary on the island, was inside their home making brownies and raced out when he heard the shots. Bergeron and Hammerling were just days away from celebrating their first wedding anniversary. Now, the slaying of the chief prosecutor has rocked the tiny island home of just 11,000 people, some 4,500 miles west of Hawaii. And they will be looking into that. But it's one of those real islands out there in the middle of the Pacific. Now, this is scary if you follow finance. This out of the business section of the New York Post today. J.P. Morgan Chase Chief Executive Jamie Dimon warned yesterday a recession may be on the horizon thanks to the continuing trade tensions with China. He said this, we didn't. The Post printed it, not us. Of course, there's a recession ahead, Dimon said. That's a quote from him during a morning call with reporters after the bank announced its third quarter earnings. What we don't know, he said, is if it's going to happen soon. It does look like geopolitics, particularly around China and trade, are reducing business confidence and access to business capital. Guess what? It's National Dictionary Day. Noah Webster, considered the father of the American dictionary, was born on October 16, 1758. National Dictionary Day emphasizes the importance of learning and using dictionary skills and increasing one's vocabulary. Do you own a dictionary? Well, most people do. I have to be snarky about this now. I wonder if the chancellor of schools down in New York City will consider this interest in words and dictionary a sign of white supremacy. They got to get rid of that guy. Will someone, will the mayor, will the nincompoop mayor of New York City, well, why would one nincompoop get rid of another nincompoop? They have a club of nincompoops. All right, here's the story that I missed. I remember before, earlier, this is real radio. We're not trying to make it so affected that you don't feel a relationship. We have lots of stories here, and I buried this one inadvertently in the wrong stack. This is a local story as we pass through 629. Some criticized New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo yesterday for using a racial slur for African Americans while discussing the historically discrimination toward darker-skinned Italian immigrants. The Democrat used the slur in an interview on WAMC radio while speaking about Columbus Day. And he talked about the recent New York Times article, which we spoke about yesterday. There was one in the Times and one in the Post. The governor made his comments as he criticized Italian stereotypes and called for African Americans, Jewish, and Italian communities to stick up for one another. He said, "Pardon my language." Now, here's what he did. And we are neither big fans nor enemies of the governor on this radio station. But the New York Times used the N-word and Dago, which I'm Italian, I can get away with it, see that? And I won't do what the governor did because I tend to go out on the edge enough, and I'm not going to use the N-word, even in a proper context, because I frankly don't want to get embroiled in that. But the governor simply read a line from the newspaper that included the N-word to try and show what Italians were called back in 1890. And this part of an article about the history of Columbus Day, the history of Italians in America, where they were called the N-word Dago. Now, as soon as I saw this article, folks, I kind of knew what he probably did. And when I did the story yesterday, I had a brief, fleeting moment where I said, geez, should you use that N-word even when it's quoting the newspaper? I chose not to. And I wish for the governor's sake he didn't in this hypersensitive world, but that is what it read. So let him off the hook. In this instance, he had more guts than I had. Not that that matters. And for those of you who like debates, we're going to ask you what you thought. Most of the newspapers found that last night at the Democratic debate that Warren, who now seems to be Elizabeth Warren in the lead, was the main target. The Massachusetts senator still trailing frontrunner Joe Biden, but seemingly gaining. And again, some people think she's actually ahead of him now on the former vice president. Found herself fending off attacks from mid-level candidates trying to drag her back to the pack. But we're more interested in what you have to say. It is 6:32. We are supported today by United Hebrew, the law firm of Pena and Khan, plug-in virtual reality, and aging issues management right here in New Rochelle. In fact, they're right across. It's so cool. They're right across from the Social Security office. So if you need advice before you go and order your Social Security up or not, you may want to stop by their offices. This is the one, the singular station at the station. This is Radio Westchester. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll see if we can't get a hold of Lou Trangucci. He's going to be on in about 20 minutes, and we'll open up the telephones. But give us about a minute, and then you can start dialing. We are 914-222-3141, 222-222. Isn't that appropriate for the train station? 222-3141. Good morning. We have returned. It is 6:34, and we go to the bottom of the hour here at 6:35 now on Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone. This is Radio Westchester. You can listen live on RadioWestchester.com, or you can even give us a call and tell us that the video is better today. We had a number of upgrades again put in over the last 3 or 4 days, but some of the technology did not act accordingly yesterday, and we had to have some people come in and make repairs. If you can see the video, we need to know. If not, we need to bring them back. We could not test it ourselves early this morning on the receiving end because we weren't here. Nonetheless, this is Radio Westchester. I'm Bob Marrone. A number of issues are on the table, one of which, of course, is the use of the N-word by the governor. I thought they're making all to do about nothing because he was quoting a New York Times article, and they used the word. Again, should he have realized in this, particularly as an elected official, should he have realized in this super sensitive world that even when you're quoting something, some words will be used as an excuse to beat you over the head? Now, do you think he should have done it? Do you think he should have been smarter politically? And imagine that, a politician not being smarter politically, because it's not about fairness. Here at Radio Westchester, we chose, when we covered that story yesterday, not to use literally what the New York Times printed. The Post was a little more circumspect about how they did that story. Again, that story, the history of Italian Americans and how Columbus Day came about, and even the fact, which is kind of interesting, that we almost went to war with Italy, which eventually we did in World War II anyway, that we almost went to war with Italy over the treatment of Italians here who were actually lynched, which we did not know. And this Italian right here did not know that Columbus Day was actually decreed, or maybe that's not the right specific word, but it was brought about by President Benjamin Harrison to appease Italy and Italian Americans after some 11 or 13 of them were lynched in Louisiana. The other issue, of course, today, LeBron James. Now, the history of it, if you're not following that story, it's relatively simple. The general manager of the Houston Rockets said, and this is what America used to do, and we're kind of proud of him, at least we are here at Radio Westchester. He said he sided with the people who were crying for freedom in Hong Kong. Now, the story of Hong Kong is it had been a British possession for a couple of hundred years. A very successful, democratic, market-based, capitalist, open society. And it prospered greatly. One of the financial capitals of the world. Been there several times. The only city as intense as New York, really, in terms of how people move about. Beautiful buildings, huge buildings, crowded though. But in 1997, and coincidentally I was there that week when it was handed back to the mainland of China, to communist China. Still communist, even though they have a hybrid system now employing communism. Employing capitalism in their financial, in their economic life. It was given back on the premise that it would slowly integrate, and the watch phrase was one country, two systems. And they did pretty well the first 20 years or so with that, but slowly different types of oppression, not major at first, and still not really major now, but things that were taking away people's free right of expression, that were perhaps indicting people or charging people with crimes, not because they committed crimes per se, but because of their political views. And so the Chinese, or rather the Hong Kong residents, wanting their two systems, at least those of us here in America or other Democrats, and I don't mean the party Democrats, but other Democrats who like liberal democracy, stuck up for them. And that's what, although I think they're tilting at windmills, I think eventually, it won't be maybe for another 30 or 40, maybe even 50 years, but eventually you won't be able to tell Hong Kong from the other cities in China, Shanghai, Beijing. That's just an opinion. We'll ask Harlan about that later. But nonetheless, with the protests going on in Hong Kong, the general manager of the Houston Rockets decided to say, we side with the, and again, I'm not quoting exactly, but we side with the people in Hong Kong who want to express themselves and exercise their free speech. Well, I did not know this because I'm not a huge basketball fan, that their second biggest market is China, and the Chinese people love the National Basketball Association. They have many teams that they like. And the National Basketball Association in general is considered the most outgoing, liberal, and tolerant of the sports. But nonetheless, it is huge business both in China and here in the United States. That is the NBA there. And so what did China do when they heard this? Well, they blocked the games. They said, nope, guess what? The games are off the air. Bye. And so they closed the market to the NBA, creating a huge economic problem for them and millions of dollars now not going to the league. Now, LeBron, well-intentioned from a business standpoint, but politically, about as politically astute as a grapefruit, said, hey, wait a minute, the GM, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not that educated with these things. He spoke out, didn't understand the consequences. Now, probably, it's kind of like with Trump. On one hand, we can't say he's inarticulate and then blame him for saying something infuriating. So he gets a little bit of slack. He's probably over there saying, I need to be loyal to this league that pays me so much money. I understand that. What does he make, $50 million a year? I mean, he earns it. He's anything you can get if you're a professional athlete, because they will throw you out like dust if you don't have it. So good for him. But trying to defend the league, he put his foot in his mouth because inadvertently he sided with business rather than freedom of speech. And that is a problem that America has right now. In general, we have the cynical evolution, and it's always inevitable, but the cynical evolution in this country of doing what works and to hell with whether or not it's the right thing to do. People vote like that. The extremes of people who vote for Donald Trump no matter what he does because they feel he does things more efficiently and executes their agenda is one example. And the people that blindly follow the AOCs around because they want free stuff. When I say free stuff, I don't mean in the extreme sense that you'll hear from a conservative, but they feel that we should have Medicare for all and that borders should be open and people can just cross and we give them benefits. We're talking about that group of people. Same thing. Well, if we achieve that, it doesn't matter how we do it. Yes, it does. America is about the how we do it. It's deliberately about the how we do it. At any rate, LeBron James stuck his foot in it. So we'd like to hear from you. 914-222-3141. 914-222-3141. Also, why can't the Yankees hit? Is it just Garrett Cole? Is it just Mr. Cole? Or are the Yankees having trouble with their bats? Do you expect them to go and play the Washington Nationals coming up in just a week or two? Now, I saw a piece in the paper today. There's just so much going on. I don't read Michael Goodwin. I don't even bother. Michael Goodwin is like a paid shill. What a shame. This guy used to be on one of my shows about 10 years ago. Great columnist. Very balanced. But then something happened. Something happened. He decided to, and I just brought the call and we'll get to you in a second. He decided to just always shill for Trump rather than give us analysis. But at least you know when you see his little smiling face in the paper. Let's go to the videotape, or actually, let's go to the telephone. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Bob. It's Lorraine Carr.
Hi, Lorraine. How are you?
How are you? Okay. I wanted to comment on something that Harlan Albin, is that his name?
Yes.
Said yesterday. I could care less that he said it against Rudy Giuliani.
Hold on. No, it wasn't Harlan. It was Mike Edelman this time.
Oh, Mike Edelman.
Yes.
Okay. He is a political hack, I think, right? And what I am commenting on that he referred to Giuliani as having chemo brain. Now, I thought that was the most insensitive, ignorant thing to say. There are people going through chemo who have gone through chemo, who have lost loved ones because the chemo didn't work. And to use that phrase was very, very, very insensitive and ignorant.
I didn't think a lot about it. I think that I'll ask him about it when he calls back.
Yes.
I
I
got.
mean,
I
go ahead.
don't know if he also was trying to maybe cut him a little slack, but yeah, it was. Now that you say it, I didn't think of it
It's
at the time.
snarky. It was
It's
really
harsh.
snarky.
Okay,
Yes, it was very harsh. So if when you speak to him, um, you know, I don't have a chance to speak to him personally, or else I would
no,
tell
we'll
him.
call him out. I'll write it right here.
He could have. I mean, for an intelligent person, I'm assuming he could have used something else,
Okay,
to refer to his brain or what he's doing. Okay.
that's a pretty good call. You're always a good call. I didn't see you walking by here. When are you going to walk?
I,
Go ahead.
I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I'm trying to get myself ready to go to work.
Okay, well, wave. Just send a wave in the window when you come by. I'm thinking,
Okay.
springtime. Maybe you can dress a little.
It's not spring. It's going to be fall
No, but
today.
I'm
I think
already
and
looking.
raining.
I'm already looking forward to the springtime. Maybe a short dress, nice.
No, no. I have a nice winter coat.
Okay,
All right.
Lorraine,
Look
thank
for
you,
that.
and we will
Thank
talk to
you.
him. I did
All
miss
right.
that, and I saw another call came in. Sorry about not getting to you. Please do call. We have the new phone system. It will be hooked up by tomorrow if we get the technician back today. But first, we have to be sure that all the other little bells and whistles that we put in work. We're testing, even as we speak. 914 222 3141, and we will be talking with Lou Trangucci. That very well may have been him. Let's go to the phone. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester.
Hey, Bob, how are you? It's Anthony.
Hey, Anthony, what's going on?
Yeah, he was definitely snarky, but that's the nature of the beast.
No, but you
So
know
it
what?
is what it is.
I didn't think about that, though, and she raised a good point. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, he has a soft spot in your heart anyways, but did you get a chance to watch any of the debate last night?
No, I could not. I was testing equipment. What's going on? What did you think? I was hoping you
much
would.
Much ado about nothing.
No surprise.
They can't agree on health care. We have Medicare for all. We have Medicare for all that want it, and we have Obamacare. Nobody has a clear path. Nobody. While Bernie will say he'll raise taxes, Elizabeth Warren won't, and then when she hems and hoards and hints that she'll raise taxes on the middle class, even though she says she won't say how much.
You raise it.
Joe Biden's the only one. Joe Biden's the only one that throws a number out there for cost, only because he's trying to knock down both those plans to continue Obamacare.
Which has been I have to agree with something you said. I have to agree with something that you said. I haven't weighed in a lot about it because I've been so unimpressed by the Democrats that even their fights don't interest me. The Republican fights for 4 years ago were great theater. I mean, Trump calling them all names and them, cowering and stuff. They don't generate any excitement. I mean, even Biden, who I'm kind of rooting for in my heart of hearts, to be frank, he doesn't. None of these people leave me in awe.
It's not only Bob. You know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of everything. When asked the question, first of all, CNN, was so they were not neutral with their questions. The way the questions were phrased.
I'm sure you're right.
Okay. That's number one. So that they basically led the candidates down the path they wanted them to travel. But every question that was asked, it was dodge, pivot back to Trump. Dodge, pivot back to Trump.
You're surprised?
But my point is, if you want, let's say for argument's sake, you're going to get basically the same canvassing that came out in 2016, which still remains to be seen. I understand it. How do you expect to win the Electoral College if you don't give, let's say, moderate Republicans, or even let's forget the Republicans. Let's say independents, something to grab on for. What are you going to do for this country? Nobody drilled down on infrastructure. Nobody.
They say that Warren usually is the one with most policy, but I understand she was attacked last night.
Well, listen, the front runner always gets attacked. Isn't that the way it works?
Yeah, generally speaking, it was Biden for about a month, and I guess it's she now. I just, in the long run, can you see her? Can you see her?
And then you get Kamala, who 9 times always, whatever, no matter what happened. If it was, if we were talking about rainwater running down the sewers, we got to get women's productive rights.
Oh. Yeah, well,
so everybody had their own little piece. The only guy that was, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound crazy. The only guy that was well-rounded, in my opinion, was Cory Booker.
Was he last night? See, I always found Buttigieg to be well-rounded with his comments, but Booker usually
Buttigieg's getting on. He's getting on a real cutting edge here. We're going to take the guns back, and we're going to, the whole nine, and he was fighting big time over the Medicare for all. And I have to agree with him. Why do you have to have Medicare for all and take away what people may want and can afford?
Yeah, it's insane. The doctor show, which we will be bringing back down the road with Dr. Sternberg, who will be coming to our air. But he's still teaching college right now. But so we don't have him as a guest. At any rate, as you know, he believes that you ought to be able to do both. There ought to be a government option, but you ought to be able to go and buy any health care you want.
Well, this is what I'll say about the Democrats in general, not just the candidates now.
Go ahead.
Okay? Every one of them, I don't care if it's Schiff, Pelosi, or any of the candidates that were on the stage last night, said we can chew bubblegum and walk. Well, they can't, because all they can do is impeach Trump. They're not doing the people's business. If they could chew bubblegum and walk, they would be getting bills at least sent to the Senate, even if they get rejected.
So true. All right, thank you very much. Got to take another call. Anthony, thank you. We go to the phone. Good morning. You are on Radio Westchester. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob Marrone, Lou Trangucci.
Here he is, folks. This is history. Now, please bear with me. Lou Trangucci, 12-year city councilman here in New Rochelle. Now, why he's history for me in the last now 13 years, I've gotten to interview people that have run for president, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, along the line, senators, authors, actors. But the very first public figure that I ever interviewed was this man on the phone, Lou Trangucci, when he first ran for the city council here in New Rochelle. It seems like just yesterday, Lou.
It sure does. And you're the very first interviewee that I gotten.
Is that right?
It's always a pleasure. Yes. So it's always a pleasure talking to you, especially about city issues.
Well,
and
anyway,
it's also good when I see you in person.
Let me remind folks. By the way, a little story about Lou. He's considered by everybody I talk to one of the best golfers here in our fair city. But nonetheless, Lou is a Republican, that rare breed who wins elections here in Westchester. He's a Republican who ran back in 2007 for District 1, and he has continued to win elections in that district for all of that time. Well known in the early years, certainly, for someone who was keeping his eyes on the numbers and holding the city accountable. And even as early as yesterday was in the newspapers talking about perhaps a change of heart about development. But first, as we said to you now 13 years ago, why do you want to do this to yourself again, Lou Trangucci?
It's good. It's a good question, Bob. This is my last run, for sure. I'm not going to run again, but I'm doing it for the fact that I feel that the downtown, I just want to have an oversight to what's happening with the downtown and its development. I've become skeptical as far as the development and the way it's being developed. It was presented to us as being total mixed-use, office, hotel, medical space, retail, but apparently everything has become residential. And that's becoming a problem, because the other thing that's really important for me is the essential services, police, fire, DPW, and those have to come up as we develop. And right now the city hasn't really increased the personnel for the police and fire.
Now, one of the things I saw your piece. When I say your piece, the piece that you were quoted, and they did a news story, folks, if you're just listening, he was quoted in the paper 2 days ago in Lohud in the Journal News as having, I guess, sort of a change of heart that when you voted, and you did vote several times, to move forward with the enterprise zone and development, that had you realized, if I get this right, had you realized it was going to be so much residential that you might not have voted for it. Now, having said that,
That's correct.
Councilman, is it not true, though, that in the longer run, it is expected that all of this residential building will draw business, will draw more retail, will draw perhaps office space? Is that not the way this has been anticipated, or do you think it's gone off the rails?
I would hope that would be the case, but the point is, that could be sometime down the road. That could be 10 years, 15 years. The problem is that the here and now, and the fact that we are making a problem with parking, that's really going to become a major, major issue. You know, one of the Church Division Street parking garage was torn down.
Yes.
And there are two buildings proposed to go up there.
Mm-hmm.
In the original proposal, the developer was supposed to replace municipal spaces 1-for-1 as they took that lot. That's no longer the case. They opted out. They gave the city X amount of revenue, and now those municipal spaces will not be available at that building site. So the spaces that will only be there for the residents who live there. And that's really going to create a major problem for the downtown. I mean, we need to have parking. And as we go and take away parking, it becomes a major issue. And then we're going to go to two-way traffic on Main and Huguenot, and we're going to have to remove another 60 spaces to accommodate the fact that we're going to go two ways. I think it's becoming a little bit of a real, mess that we could really get ourselves into. I think we already started to get ourselves in a mess. It's just how deep we're going to go into this hole.
We are with City Councilman from District 1, Lou Trangucci. He's running for re-election. This will be his fourth term. If he wins, he's running again. He's a Republican. He's running against Democrat Martha Lopez. We have reached out to her or not heard back. As you know, that's how we roll. We try and get everybody on. You mentioned the parking. Now, right now, there are parking issues, and we've been told to expect more problems, but as growing pains. But you've seen the plans. You've worked with the developers. Are there not, and this is a true question, are there not, it's my understanding that they've considered parking in the ultimate development. Is that true?
Well, development will have, no, well, it's partially true. You know, again, as I said, the developers were supposed to replace parking 1-for-1 on municipal lots.
Go ahead.
Any other spot that they're developing on, the Maple Avenue lot that's being developed will replace the spaces 1-for-1. Actually, we'll increase it a little bit by around 50%. And that's good. That's very good. But that process is going to take 2 years to build. And the people who park there now, the municipal spaces, plus we have permitted spaces there, will have to find some other accommodation. And I've been working with city to help out the people who have the permitted spaces, because they're going to have to go through hardships here for another year and a half.
Well, there's no.
So I think over the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be bedlam for the people who want to come to the downtown, who want to park in the downtown, and again, the office space it's not been taken up. The retail we mandated has to be on the first floor. That space will be put out there, but as far as anyone coming and taking it, I don't know who will. It's nothing that's big box, nothing that's going to be large retail. And so the problem is going to be we're going to create a lot of people in the downtown. There's going to be a tremendous burden on the fire department. Our fire department, when I first came on in council, our fire department did a little under 5,000 calls a year. Mm-hmm. That's fire and EMS. We are now over 9,000 calls a year. And we're basically the same manpower. So you can't increase the demand to the fire department without increasing the personnel.
Well,
and we've only done a little bit of that through overtime.
As a sitting councilman over these many years, you and your colleagues, have you asked this of the developers? Have you requested the what are the plans? Have you inquired of the city manager and the development commissioner? Have you not been satisfied with their answers to this? For example, I've done a show, as you know, for years with the city manager, and the answers are that these are all in the plans. They know they have to increase infrastructure. They know they have to hire more support people down the road, et cetera, that they also have a formula, if you will, to increase aid to schools as things grow. Have you heard those things also? That's number one. And number two, are you confident that they'll happen? Or is your goal to oversee that they do?
One of the things when we voted for the overlay zone was it was stipulated that the developers may go to the city and show them the plans to the fire and police as to the impacts. Mm-hmm. I said that it had to be mandatory. So now it is mandatory that all plans go through the police and fire department to show their impacts. And then from that, it was determined what personnel would have to be added on to accommodate that development. But we as council, no one has come to council at every budget meeting over the last 2 years and said, well, we're going to hire 4 more police officers. We're going to hire 6 more firemen. That's not been the case. And 2 years ago, I fought at one of the budget meetings to increase manpower at the fire department, and we did through overtime. We didn't hire any additional personnel. We just added more overtime money in so that we can have additional 3 men per shift. But the problem is, when you want to add 3 men per shift, you got to hire 9 men because you need that rotation.
Okay.
And so the city is not at this point ready and willing to commit to hiring nine men for the fire department, or even additional police officers to get the numbers up to where we should be, which is probably around 175 personnel. We're at about 155.
Now, again, people have bosses and people have to play politics, but do you sense that if we got a candid comment from the police, let's say the police chief, the police commissioner, that they would express the same concern that you are?
Yes.
Okay, that's
yes.
important to know.
Personnel is needed.
Okay, personnel is needed. What about
fire? We had a fire. Let me tell you, fire department. Yes, they would say the same thing.
They would.
Our average age of the fire department is 46 years old.
I wish I was
46 is the average age.
Don't you wish you were 46? My guest, let me remind folks, my guest is Lou Trangucci. He is the sitting city councilman from District 1 here in New Rochelle. He's a 3-term councilman seeking a 4th. He says it will be his last. Now, just wrapping this part of the interview, the development which you expressed concern about in the newspapers. Do you see your role going forward as someone to make sure these other things happen? I mean, can we conclude that otherwise you're for the development, for lack of a better way to put it, but that you're concerned about the direction it could take? How would you characterize your position on it at this time?
Well, I was for the total mixed use that was presented to council 3 years ago, and that encompasses everything that mixed use is talking about, which is hotel, office, medical office, and I've seen nothing of that in the plans that are being proposed to the city of new buildings going up. It's primarily residential. And again, I understand these developers are going to go where the dollars are and how they pay their bills. But my responsibility as a council member to the citizens is that if we're developing in a way that's going to be harmful to the residents and to our essential services, then what good is it?
Now,
so they're also reaping substantial tax breaks. That's one of the things that I've always opposed. I could see a minimal tax break, something that lasts 10 years, something that lasts a maximum of 15 years. But these developers are receiving 70% abatements that extend more than 20 years.
Well, now, at the time, you yourself voted for some of these developments, did you not?
Well, I voted for the overlay zone, not the development.
Okay.
The developments go as part of the overlay zone. Once the secret was created by RXR, then anybody who met the criteria for the zoning could go has an as of right to build. And that was one of the things that was a little skeptical about, because we would have no say as to the buildings. The height was already created in the downtown based on councils before me, believe it or not, that back in 2000 when the Avalons were built.
Well,
But
go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
But we wouldn't see. The problem is, in the past, every development would come to council. We would have an opportunity to talk to the developer, express our concerns if there's tax abatements, express our concerns about parking issues, how they're going to arrange parking, and what would be contributed to the city for essential services. That's no longer taking place because developers go directly to providing their drawings to the city and then going right to the planning board, and they just bypass the council now. And I think one of the proposals I would recommend if I win is that every proposal after it goes in front of the IDA should come to council for its final approval. We as council should support or approve any IDA abatement that's given away so that we're held on record. Since the IDA is not voted by people in the city, we're the voted people in, we're the elected officials. We should be responsible to saying yes or no on abatements or questioning what's given away.
Our guest, Lou Trangucci, City Councilman from District 1 here in New Rochelle. He is running for a fourth term. He's the Democrat, the Republican, Martha Lopez. She, an upstart, running as a Democrat, again, in the general election about 1 month from now, maybe a little less now. So let's take a look at your role. We have two other areas we want to get into before we send you on your way. Let's look at your role. How do you see your role as right now a dissenter to some extent? What do you see your role now with respect to development going forward then? Because you are a lone voice now with this position, at least on the city council.
Well, being more of a watchdog and questioning everything that the IDA might give away. And again, we don't get to see that, but that providing the services that are needed for the essential.
Hey, did I lose you? Councilman? All right, he'll call us back. We lost the councilman. Now, here's where we're going to go with the rest of the interview. We will cover the political aspects of this recent disclosure by an expression of concern by the city councilman, as well as some other political issues, and then get into his record over the last 12 years, what he's most proud of, etc. Now, that is him, and now you know what our phone sounds like. Welcome back, sir. That happens. Lou Trangucci still with us.
Yeah,
now.
We lost you. Okay.
That's okay. You were just finishing up on what your role is, and I was explaining to the audience that we will then cover next some of the political issues that are involved with you right now, and then talk about your record overall. So you see yourself as a watchdog. What do you think needs to change, and do you feel that all is lost? Do you think that this can be guided to a place where you want it to be? That is the development.
No, I don't think everything is lost. I think that development and going forward is going to be good if it's done correctly and it's done not necessarily on the back of the taxpayers, because we do need this. We're not going to be able to get the kind of retail that people talked about in the past. It's going to be very difficult. But being a watchdog and making sure that essential services get their monies that are needed to expand their services, because as these buildings go up, it demands a lot from fire, it demands a lot from police. And the residents who live here, who've been here, still need to have access to the police and fire. And we should not be able to deny them that access. So everything has to come up, and the developers have to pay, and the money that we're bringing in has to cover that.
Okay.
And making sure that, we're getting that money.
Let's move on to some of the political issues. You've taken heat like every other public official, and a couple of issues out there. One, the timing of this piece by the folks at the Journal News. Of course, the mayor countered some of your concerns. This came as a surprise. And some of the people we've spoken with, your positions came as a surprise. Had you been waiting a while and then decided that this would be a part of your campaign, or is this something that you've been complaining about right along?
No, it's been something I've been talking about all along. I mean, I see the writing on the wall with the fact that over the last 2 years, I had to discuss at the table trying to increase revenue for the police and fire, trying to get more personnel. And, the city is not coming back with saying or putting into the budget without council asking, we've increased the manpower or the personnel for police and fire. And so I could sense from being on council for a long time that This is something that we gotta every year have to initiate, push to make sure that these monies are appropriated to bring the departments up to the levels we need. The other thing is, of course, accountability, parking, traffic. That's going to be an issue as we go forward. The city plans on going two-way traffic on Main and Huguenot by the end of next year. I would propose, if I win, that we stall or hold off the conversion of those streets until development is complete. Because you can't have one lane traffic on Main Street as we start closing lanes for developers to receive material and stuff like that. That could be a real nightmare.
Okay.
So that's another thing.
The other issue that you're taking some heat for lately is if we have our facts right, you have taken donations from from one or two of the developers. We want to give you a chance to explain that. We did see in the papers that they gave you monies in excess, but that you return in excess of 1,000, but that you return the difference. What is the whole story on that? Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, the money I received was from a gentleman, Greg Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a developer yet. He's proposing to put affordable housing in Western Rochelle, workforce housing, true workforce housing. I did receive a check from him for $2,500. I did not realize, and we made a mistake, that it was above and beyond 1,000. So I called up my party, and I returned the check within 10 days to him, the $1,500 difference. Mm-hmm. So I received 1,000, and it's the same person who donated to Mayor Bramson's campaign. But this individual is trying and proposing to put 60% of AMI housing in Western Rochelle. We have not gotten any new housing stock, with the exception of development on Union Avenue, for the last 25 years.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you
People
about that in the next segment. So I just have one more political thing, and then so hold that thought if you would. We are with Lou Trangucci, 12-year city councilman, going for a fourth term in District 1 against Martha Lopez, the Democrat. And we'll get back to that, because affordable housing is one of those things that I'm concerned about, at least in the context of this interview, and I'm glad to hear you bring it up. Is you run now in a district that the demographics are changing, even since when you first ran, and we did this. It's amazing, 12, almost 13 years ago now. I know that 30% of the city is Latino, but yours is a largely Latino district. From a service point of view, and then, of course, even a political point of view, have you built up your relationships in that community? What have you done for your Latino, what's the right word? Constituents, got it.
I've always been there for them. We redid Feeney Park. I was committed, and I got city money with school money to redo the Columbus School field. I'm sure you've seen the field.
It's absolutely. I'm a block from there, as you know. It's beautiful.
Right, and I was committed before I left office to do that field over. Since I played in that field when I was a kid, it was just a rock stone field, terrible.
Is that right?
And I wanted to commit to give the kids a beautiful field before I left office, and it worked out. So the people know I've been in the neighborhood. The people know they have access to me at any time. They call me, I'll come to them. I've made good relationships with the Hispanics. They are hardworking people, good family people, good church-going people. And again, for this election, it is what it is. People know what I've done. People know what I stand for. If you want to vote for me, please come out and vote for me.
Well, before you go,
feel you need to change, you do it. People vote the way they want. And that's the end of that game. And again, I'm at a point now in politics where I want to stay in office just to finalize and make sure that certain things are, from my perspective, I could help come to its ending and make sure that we stay on the right track. But other than that,
7:14. We have a few minutes left with Councilman Lou Trangucci, and now we can sort of make this the complete package. Look over the 12 years, Councilman Trangucci. What are you most proud of? And I can vouch for Feeney Park. I walk by there just about every day, and things like that. What are you most proud of over the 12 years, and what do you want to do if you get this next term that hasn't been completed yet?
I'm most proud of the fact that I've accomplished quite a few things that I needed to accomplish, that I wanted to accomplish. As I mentioned, the park, the field, even potholes. You know, that was one of the big issues. I used to drive around my district in the springtime, sighting out all the potholes. The city has done a tremendous job in coming around and filling potholes up quickly. And just the relationships I've made with people over the years. I think that I'm well respected in my district. I think I'm well respected in the city. And I think that I've done what I can to help the people. And I look at it where I'm a servant. That's what an elected official is. You're nothing more than representing them, being a voice for them, and being a servant to them. And when they call and they need something, they know that I'll come there and meet them and go over to their house and check out what they need and get it into the city. That's it. And so I feel proud of the fact that, and honored that I had the opportunity to serve my district that I grew up in for 12 years. If I'm given another opportunity for 4 more years, so be it.
Now,
if they decide that a change is needed, that's fine too with me.
Well, let's take a look at those 4 more years. What would you like to accomplish over those 4 years?
I'd like to continue on the path that I was doing as far as relationships, making sure our roads are good, making sure that the citizens' issues are always answered, which I do, and then moving on to making sure that the city's development is on the right track, and holding the developers, holding our commissioner of development to the fire to make sure that certain things are taken care of and that the things that we were promised, or the residents that were promised things, are followed through.
And lastly, then, and we ask this, we've done a lot of these interviews over the years. So I'm in the booth, and I happen to be in District 1. I'm in the booth. Why do I want to pull the lever? Give me your elevator pitch. Take a minute. Why should I pull the lever for Lou Trangucci?
Trangucci has served his district well. He's always answered the constituents' issues. He's available. He goes out of his way to make sure that the issues for his constituents are taken care of. And for that reason, I would vote for Trangucci.
Well, I want to thank you very much for all this time. We'll try and get you each week prior to the election. We wish the best of luck. And, wow, we've been at this a long time, Councilman Trangucci. Thanks very much for your
Bob,
time
it's
today.
Been great.
Thank you so much, and travel safely, sir. Bye-bye.
Care.
Lou Trangucci, everyone. Remember to get out to the polls. We reached out to Martha Lopez. Geez, I almost said Martha Stewart. And we will get her on in the next couple of days as well and see what her take on all this is. This is Radio Westchester. We are live from the station at the New Rochelle train station. Let's take a quick look at the weather, who's supporting us, and then we'll take a very quick break, be back with some news, and then more guests. Vince Roon shows up next. We're going to talk about the debates last night and also about the impeachment inquiry with him. Right now it's 55, scattered clouds. Going to get to about 68 today, but we will have rain late in the day. The temperature, again, will be around 65 at game time if, in fact, the Yankees go forward. Tonight, mostly cloudy. They're saying scattered showers with temperatures around 49 degrees. And I'm looking at the Weather Center notes now. The National Weather Service has issued a coastal flood watch and advisory for southern Westchester. Stay right there. We'll be right back.